welcome to another episode of Reseller Evolution. I'm Scott.
And I'm Jamie.
Jamie's back.
Yeah, I heard on your last episode, Carl say he was unsure if he could make it, so I was on standby.
Yeah. Oh, good. I always hate to ask because I don't know if I'm bugging people or not, but I was hoping you'd be available because you did good. Everybody liked you on the last time, and it'd be nice to if you wanted to be a regular guest and just kind of check in to see how you're doing. I mean, that's great. I always hate to ask people because I don't know if I'm bugging them or not. So
yeah, but, I don't know if you can hear in the background. I've got an angry cat here. You can't hear that, Scott? No,
I heard that one, but that's
that one. Okay. Yeah, at some point he might need to be cuddled. But yeah, I guess for this week I'll be Jamie the lazy reseller.
Yeah, Jamie the lazy reseller. That's good. Yeah. So how's things going? How is picking the booth, the eBay? How's everything going? Just your overall reselling experience right now.
Well, the weather's been bad for yard sales. It seemed to rain quite a bit the last couple weekends, so that slowed down because I really prefer to like source through yard sales. My second favorite sourcing opportunity would be the Goodwill bins, and thrifting has become it's harder to find good stuff in thrift stores, so that would be probably my third option, right? And then there's all different sorts of ways you can find stuff, but it's been going pretty good. I've had an opportunity to buy a few bulk buys, and I just bought like some wholesale like hockey jerseys from a buddy and stuff like that. So it's been good, but I wish the yard sales were a little bit better.
Well, nothing's going to beat the price that you can get stuff at a yard sale. So your return on investment is huge. Carl doesn't think return on investment is that important. So, did you hear our argument in a previous episode about that?
The numbers, right? That was
the numbers.
Yeah, it went off the rails a little bit. It was good though. It's entertaining.
Yeah, I know. We kind of went, as Randy would say we were doing left and right, and then we just took a veer off into the cornfield. But well, that's good. Yard sales would be. I think, well, definitely I get my best price at the yard sales.
Yeah.
But a close second to the prices, but probably what I like doing the most is doing private picks. And the reason is because I don't have to rush. I can go through the stuff. I can talk to the people. I can kind of find out where some of the stuff is from and get a little history on it. I'm not like just trying to jam everything into like one big lump ball of stuff, get a price, put it in the truck and go to the next one. I can kind of pick through it and figure out what I got. And the prices are usually pretty good. They're not going to be as good as yard sales because I don't think anything is. But I think I enjoy that more. Is those private picks? In fact, I have a private pick. I have to give a guy a call. He wants to sell a bunch of knives and stuff, so that could be interesting too, as long as the price is right. But yeah, yard sales for sure. Anything else? Like how's anything else you want to talk about? Just for me, the sales for eBay have been slow in the last week. Last couple of days, it kind of perked up a little bit, like a few, but it was like dead there for like 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, I know. I've had some pretty good success, and then this past week's been slow. But I was just talking to my buddy John about this. I find on eBay sometimes. So I ran into a problem where somebody wanted to do a return, and then as soon as you have like any issue in eBay whatsoever, it feels like they hit a switch, and like your stuff doesn't get viewed. Your sales slow down, and until you resolve the problem, sometimes things don't pick back up. And even then, it's a slow incline. That's what I found. But because prior to having an issue, which was a return, it was a return for like a Guitar Hero guitar. Things were going really good, and then as soon as that person opened a case, and we settled it really quick, I gave them a 50% refund. They kept the guitar. But just because that happened, it seems like it messes up eBay's algorithm. Now, I don't know. This is just from my experience. I'm not saying that's what happens, but I've heard a lot of other people suggest the same sort of thing. Like when you have any sort of case or issue with eBay, it sort of seems to slow rate down. I don't know.
It makes sense, dude, because I'm dealing with a case right now, and I can't print a label because it's in the US. I know this guy's scamming me because I know the camera worked. The photos show it worked because what he's claiming is that the camera shuts off after a few seconds. Well, I had the camera on and it took probably 3 to 4 minutes just to do the photos. And I have the camera on. I have the lens pulled out. The camera is on. You can see fully that it's on. I put an item in front of it and I took a picture of behind the camera so you can see the item on the screen, showing the screen works and all this stuff. 3 or 4 minutes I had to be on, but this person says after 20 seconds it shuts off. So they wanted a refund, or sorry, they wanted a return.
Yeah.
So I accepted the return, but I can't get a label. They live in the US. So I checked out their account just to see if this is something common for them. And yeah, so they purchased the item probably August 6th or 7th. I think the 6th is when they purchased it, but their account opened August 5th, 2024. They have no feedback.
Yeah.
So I think I'm being scammed. They probably realize I can't get a label. They knew that ahead of time. I called eBay about it. They said, just get a label. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm trying to get a label and I can't. So now I'm going to have to call eBay today, probably just refund them, block them. But I want eBay to know that these guys are out there.
Yep, for sure.
And it's out of my hands at that point because I'm just going to block them. But eBay needs to know they're out there. Whether they do anything about it, I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, we all start somewhere. Everybody has to start on a day one account with zero feedback. But it always seems to raise a lot of flags when you're the one selling if you all of a sudden there's issues. And this person seems to know the in and outs of eBay on how to take advantage of a seller, but it's a brand new account. Seems pretty convenient, right? You would think if you had a brand new account and you were new to eBay, you'd have to talk to eBay, and eBay would like hold your hand through a process of, even getting a return. Like, I don't know. I'm always so skeptical, especially when it comes to items like that, where, like you said, it was tested. And I know you're the kind of guy, if you thought there was anything wrong with that camera, it'd be in your booth. You wouldn't have put it online, right? Because I know if there's a blemish on stuff, you'd rather sell it in the booth than throw it on eBay.
Yeah. Well, if it just didn't work, it's parts and repair. It's a $75 camera as it is. So it's either parts and repair or, and when I throw it in the booth, I'm going to put like doesn't stay on, or, it'll be like a shelf sitter type thing, like for decor purposes. I'll put a really cheap price on it just again to get my money back. This was a digital one, so I'm not 100% sure if I'd put it in my booth if it didn't work.
Right.
Because I think because obviously I'm going to put that it does, like what's wrong with it, but I don't know if anybody would buy that out of the booth anyways. But I would put it in the booth if I got it back and it did work, right? Because I just don't want to deal with it again. So, because what's happened here is it's cost me $10 to ship that. Probably cost me $1 to $5. Like that's what I pay for my cameras. But, I'm not really worried about that. But by the time you get shipping and everything involved, like now I'm $15 into this thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And to have it returned is going to be another $10, maybe 15. That's if they even return it properly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I know people are going to say, you know what, tell them to change the batteries and everything like this. But I think if you're just dealing with ding dongs, you're dealing with ding dongs. If they don't know enough to change the battery, they don't know enough to do anything. You know what I mean? Like that's number one priority, I would think. And the last time I told someone to check the battery, they like, duh, I'm not dumb. Right. That was the response I got. That was the written response I got. I'm not, the verbatim was, duh, I'm not an idiot.
Yeah, but I mean, you're just trying to troubleshoot and help them, right?
But troubleshoot.
Yeah, yep. I mean, you're doing the right thing. And yeah, probably if this guy is legitimately having problems and he's on the up and up, this problem is probably he's trying to put dollar store batteries into a camera that needs real batteries, like lithium batteries or something. So, but regardless, if I was going to tip the scale one way or the other, I would be on definitely the scam side, on this transaction. But it's so hard to say.
The flip side of this, and maybe it's a learning lesson. Maybe if it requires batteries, I just bite the bullet, ship it with the batteries. Right? If I shipped it with the batteries, it's just batteries can be expensive. But if it's a $75 camera. It was $75. Um, I think is what $74.95 is what I charge them for plus shipping. But I mean, if it's that valuable, an extra $3 to $5 for a couple of batteries, just for peace of mind.
I think it has to go ground though, right? I don't think you're allowed to send. No one's probably going to look or check or anything, but I think technically you're not supposed to. I'm just saying that because I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to say, "Oh, you can't do that. You got to ship it ground, blah blah blah." Because there are rules to batteries for sure, but pretty loose, I would assume.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking for peace of mind, maybe I'll do that in the future.
Yep.
And my luck, the camera will turn on and the batteries will be dead by the time it gets there. And I don't know, it'll be something silly happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm gonna clear that up today. But kind of backtracking here, the point I was actually going to get to was, before I got on this tangent, was that the store seemed to slow down once this case was issued. And I never looked at it really that way. I kind of looked at it, kind of like it's just a slowdown. But maybe that's what caused it.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Like I said, there's no written law that says that happens. I just feel like when that happens, a lot of the times I instantly feel like, oh, great. I know this is going to like halt sales for a while. I'm going to have like a slow few days. I mean, if you have good items that are going to have fast sell through rate, I don't think that's going to stop those type of items, but I do think it definitely seems to stop the majority of your items getting in front of people that they might normally get in front of.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting. I'm going to have to monitor that. I'm going to have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting. All right. So, for anybody new here, what we do is we talk a little bit of reselling. We do have a topic for the day. Jamie has been doing an antique booth now for, are you 6 months, a year in? Like how long have you been doing the antique booth?
I think maybe as far back as April is what I'm going to think. It could have been, so not too long. I actually just had an opportunity last month. The booth beside me became open.
Yeah.
And it took all of my willpower not to just say, yeah, I'll take it. Because I mean, they offered it to me. They said, hey, we want to offer this to you because it's right next to you. This would be a good opportunity to expand if you wanted to. And I just felt like I need till January to have a better track record to know if spending more money is a smart thing or not, right? Like I'm definitely never lost money. I keep making a little bit more every month, so it's going in the right direction. But yeah.
Well, it's hard to say. I don't know exactly what your inventory is. I don't know exactly what your sourcing, your feeling on your sourcing ability is.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of getting at a point here. Like if you felt comfortable enough, like I've said this 1,000 times. I always think the more floor space you can handle, the better you're going to do. And the reason for that is because you're just going to appeal to more people. And like right now, I'm at my max. Like I can't really handle any more floor space because then I'm going to be sucking too much time into the booth and not enough on eBay.
Right.
When I'm right at that sweet mark where I have the booth, it's really taking a lot of inventory and it's making good money. And at the same time, I can just focus on the booth strictly one full day a week, and the rest of the days can go to eBay and then sourcing too. So you got to find that sweet spot for yourself. It's a really tough call because if you're not ready, you did the right thing. But when a booth comes up right beside you, it's tough, eh? Like, because that's perfect. Like, that's where you want it to be, right?
Yep. I mean, the only negative thing I could say about the booth next to me, besides the fact that it would be more money, obviously, it's right on the corner with a doorway. So it's actually part of that booth is in like a walkway. So you don't have, in the one I have currently, it comes out 10 feet roughly. That one, because of the door, it probably only comes out 4.5 feet. You
Right.
still have the same wall space, and then I'd be able to take the barrier that I have between the two and either adjust it or do whatever I want with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really love that it's right in the doorway though.
Yeah. I agree, but on the other hand, doorways are where people walk through, so they're going to be forced to walk through those past those items. So there's a couple of different ways to look at it. I know the area you're talking about. I haven't been there for a little bit, but again, it's like I don't know what kind of prices you're looking at, and is it the same price or is it a lesser price?
It's a
Could you
little less.
negotiate a bit of a price, like because you got two booths now? Can you, like, I'm not sure where you could have taken this as far as like as far as financial commitments. You know what I mean? I'm not sure how much would be involved in paying for all that stuff, because the scary part about the booth for me, at least at the beginning, was the commitment that you have to pay before you sell. Where on eBay, your payment comes at the sale. You know what I mean?
Yep, for sure.
So when you're responsible, like you're kind of almost forced to make sure those sales are going to be there to cover that, right? So, um, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there'll be more opportunities in the future for sure.
Oh yeah, it's
And
not even full. Like it's still empty. It's been, well, what are we're the 14th of the month we're recording this, and it's still empty currently. So there's a good possibility at the beginning of next month I could go in there and say, hey, like I would take this for maybe a little bit less, like a bundle. But I didn't really want to do that right when he offered it to me, which I could have for sure. But
did he give you a price for it?
yeah, it's a little bit. It's like maybe like $20 less than what I'm paying now, which I assume he just assumes that you're going to be missing part of the
The
front of the
door.
booth, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Um. So okay, well that's good. So today's topic should actually be funny enough is going to be operating an antique booth, because you've been doing it now. I've been doing it. This is on my ninth. I've been doing it for 9 years now. June 1st was my ninth birthday of operating a booth.
That's all.
Um, and there's ups and downs, and there's a huge learning curve. But
Um,
you've got a lot of knowledge going in on reselling and stuff like that. So, and you got your eBay store to kind of back you up. Like you're kind of, you know what I mean? This is kind of a step in that direction where, I just had to learn school of hard knocks right off the bat. So,
yeah.
um, so that being said, I won't get into it too much. We'll talk about that once we get to the subject. Um, First, what we do, Jamie, as you know, is we talk a little bit about the comments. So we love comments. So I'm going to read the comments here. And then, unless you can pull up YouTube and you want to alternate reading a comment, if you want to do that.
No, I'll let you do it.
All right. So we'll read the comments, we'll go through them, and then we'll get on with today's topic. So the first one here is doing it wrong. And don't worry about going on to your tangents. 35 minutes booth flea market strategy is 1,000% more valuable than any other podcasts who don't talk reselling and just trash talk each other for an hour. Wow. Yeah. Well, the only people that we trash talk is each other. So I guess that's okay. And that's Carl and I will. Carl trash talks me more than I do him, though. He's not here, so I can say these things. Not throwing shade. Oh, yes, I'm throwing shade. Lots of shade. Nice. Doing it wrong is on fire there. Yeah, 35 minutes of booth and flea market strategy, 1,000 more valuable than other podcasts. So I like that. That's good because well, we'll talk this again once we get to the topic here. But I think resellers nowadays, and you can talk upon this idea if you want, Jamie, but I think there's more than one strategy going forward. I think you have to have multiple platforms to sell on. I don't care if it's doing yard sales to clear out inventory, going to auctions. Uh, Carl's doing the flea market. We do antique booths. But I think you have to have, and actually you do even more, like you do on other platforms like
Right.
Macari and Poshmark and all that. So, um, I think that's the way you got to do it. I think that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I do too. And I actually just talked about this with once again my with my buddy John. But I had said to him, I did an interview with Posh Sidekick, which is like an automation program that I use and actively promote on my channel. Anyway, it's a great automation tool for Poshmark. But somebody commented in the interview, this guy should just stick to one platform. He would do a lot better. And I just thought to myself, I commented, I think, why would I do that? And I don't think the person ever got commented back to me. But I just thought, why would you be that closed-minded?
Yeah.
If I had everything I had into my Etsy store that got shut down, I'd have nothing. And then you'd be starting from scratch, right? So like the idea of putting everything all into one platform or all into one thing, to me, just doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. And, you know, I also hear guys, and if it works for them, I'm not going to tell them how to do things if it works for them. But for me, I just think this is the way you got to do it. But also, there's guys out there that'll say, you should stick to one niche. Is it clothing? Is it toys? Is it
Right.
books? You know what I mean? If people are successful doing that, that's fine. But why would I leave money on the table at a yard sale, a $2 item worth $100 because it's not in my realm of items I want to sell?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a gold watch sitting there for $2. It's worth 400, but because it's not clothing, I'm not going to pick it up. Like, give me a break, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm eclectic. I always have been. I like finding treasure. I don't care what it is. You know what I mean? And I think you got to sell it the same way.
For sure. I think one of the factors to keep in mind though is like myself and you, this is like an income for us. If this is just a hobby for you, by all means, just sell in an antique booth, just sell on eBay, do the thing you want to do, just sell video games. That's fine. But if you're trying to make an income and you're relying on the money in any sort of way, yeah, I don't think one platform makes sense or one thing makes sense.
Yeah. It doesn't. And I've quickly realized that one of the things about doing it full time is it's pure volume game. You got to keep that engine has to keep pushing stuff out. So
yeah,
if eBay stalls out, I got the booth. If the booth stalls out, I got eBay. I also take things to auction. I do Etsy as well. I'm going to get back into cross listing on Etsy. Etsy just kind of ticks me off because there's that initial fee. And I know it's not lots, especially in the long run, but it just irks me that every 3 months or so you got to pay more. So it only sounds like 27 cents Canadian per item, but you got hundreds of items out there. It doesn't take long for that to add up. And it's kind of irritating. But, in the long run, I can ask a little bit more for some of the stuff on Etsy and stuff like that. So, Jamie, what's your channel? You do both a YouTube and a podcast. So whatever you want to plug out there, just throw it out there.
Yeah, Thriftonfire, not to be confused with Jamie, the lazy reseller, but yeah, Thriftonfire is the actual channel. And then A to Z Reseller podcast. Those are
and you do that with John, your buddy, and he's out east. He's in the East Coast.
Reselling with John. Yep, he's Nova Scotia.
Okay, very good. So plug that a couple times through the show. This is a pre-record, so I will definitely put those links in my YouTube side of things for this channel. And Jamie's been on before, and as long as he's able and willing, like he wants to, whenever Carl can't make it or I can't make it, we'll have Jamie on as a guest. So we'll keep him coming back. I'm going to continue on here. Doing it wrong, Carl. I was talking about all the above. People will do the shadiest stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Buyers and sellers both. It's taught us a good amount of patience and tolerance. And he comments first, so his comments were first. So that's the other channel doing it wrong. That's the Scott Sell Stuff channel where you try to get in there first. Anyway, that's funny. Yeah, Facebook Marketplace. Do you do much? I don't do much on that. Like I might sell the odd item, but
a little bit. But like yesterday, I waited around for some guy who was supposed to come after work to get a golf club, and then at 8:00 at night, where I'm like, "You're obviously not coming." Oh, sorry, I had to work overtime. just leaving work now. They still didn't come and get it. But I mean, it's just stuff like that is frustrating. The other thing that I find annoying about Marketplace is being where we are is pretty rural. And I'll get a lot of messages from people in Toronto, and I'm just like, well, you're not coming to get this.
Yeah.
So like, why even bother? But
yeah. I even get messages on eBay. Like, they live in Toronto. Oh, can I come and pick it up? I'm like, dude, it's like $40. It's going to cost you $40 in gas just to come pick it up, plus 4 hours of your time.
yeah,
Like, why bother? Just I'll mail it for $10. You know, cost $40 plus 4 hours of time for to save $10, which you're obviously not saving. All right. So Randy, Nova Scotia Celts, 5218. And as always, a fun show. If you both had the same mindset, it would be boring. Well, Carl and I definitely do not have the same mindset. One thing about flea market, keep the collectibles, especially the toys, away from the front of the table and reach of the little hands. Yeah, especially the breakable older toys. Sometimes I like to have the toys in a box on the floor because mom and dad is forced to buy them, but those are usually like just like McDonald's toys or small little things that I don't really care about. But I understand your point there. Randy has experience in the past doing flea markets, so he's well aware of what can happen there. Free shipping is like the biggest reason people prefer Amazon, because that was the topic last year or last week, why people don't buy on eBay and why more people buy on Amazon. I searched on eBay and only a few sellers in Canada for what I'm looking for. So higher shipping costs and longer wait time for delivery. If you sell on Amazon, better for fast movers. We sell a lot of the one-offs. Exactly, I do for sure. Which more move slowly, and Amazon will charge you storage and ship it back to you on your dime. Plus, yeah, so I'm not getting involved with that for sure. Plus, they're getting more and more items. As far as store names, Carl, lots of people say buyers pay no attention to the store. As for naughty names for stores, okay, so we were thinking of like porn names for your stores.
yeah.
I was thinking like Misty Mountain Lingerie, or
yeah.
As far as naughty names for stores, back in the 1970s, someone called me Raunchy Randy. Wow, that's like a wrestler and a porn name in one. That's great.
Yeah, it sounds like he would have a mustache at that point.
Yeah, and long oiled hair and his whole body would be oiled down. Yeah. Any porn names for eBay store?
I can't think of one, but that is really funny though. Was it you guys that were talking about people who have like show their cleavage and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was. I'm pretty sure I heard you guys talk about that.
Yeah, we talked about that. That's funny. Yeah, because I'm thinking you could we won't get into it. So we have one from Dawn. Right Selections.
Is it a novel?
It is not a novel. It's more like a preface or summary, or what is a preface on the author does at the front of the book. Congrats on the flea market booth, Carl. See, I can be nice, and Carl will listen to this. He'll listen to it probably on his way back from his vacation on Spotify. I don't necessarily mind selling to other resellers, but I still need to make money. So it all depends if the stuff I got in bulk to begin with, or if they are thrift store finds or whatever. Sorry I didn't get to comment on last week's until this morning. Oh, that's fine. We were wondering where you were, Don. We notice. For why I don't usually shop on eBay, it's absolutely the shipping cost. Well, that's interesting, eh? So I'll kind of take a break here for a second. So what I've done for shipping costs, I do two things. And tell me if you do this too, Jamie. But for the most of my stuff, it's going to be like $7 to $12. So I'll charge sometimes it depends what it is, how expensive it is. But if it's something like cheap, I might put $5 or $7 for shipping. But mostly I put 10 to 15 for shipping. So even if I put 15 and it's going to cost me $20 or even $22, if it's $100 item, I got a $5 into it. Like I don't mind eating that little bit of difference, just because I think this lower shipping cost is going to appeal to more people to buy it. Do you do that kind of strategy too?
Yeah, I do have the advantage of using Stallion Express where I can purchase labels pretty cheap, like a lot cheaper than eBay on most cases. But yeah, I always have tried to keep my shipping as low as I possibly can to be more competitive with US sellers. Such so I've actually had people message me who I know are selling stuff say, "How do you have such low shipping prices?"
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting because that is one of the problems, and it's if you are a seller, that's frustrating, right? Because
Yeah.
what I would do the same thing if I didn't have Stallion Express to get like discounted shipping. I would do the same thing you did. I'd lose a few dollars in the shipping just to get a sale in front of somebody else because it makes
Yeah.
sense.
And I think that's uh, uh, so. And you've commented on this before, and I've commented on it before, but it probably depends on what area you live on. But we live in an area where we have an abundance of sourcing. Like I never have a problem getting items at very reasonable to like super cheap prices.
Yeah.
And you find that yourself as well?
Yeah, compared to when you start going into the city or into other places, you notice really quickly that the prices are different for sure.
Yeah. So, it depends on where you live, but for me to, buy a camera for $1 to $5 and sell it for $75, well, first of all, camera's going to be inexpensive to ship anyways. But even if it's something bigger, like a piece of art, like some piece of art, I have a $200 to $300 on them. I might put 15 or I might put $20 to ship. I mean, it's a little bit different because if somebody's willing to pay $300 for a painting, I don't think they're going to care if it's $20 or 25 or $30. But I still will probably try to keep it around $20. I try not to go higher than that unless it's made of lead or something and it's going to cost a fortune. But I'll try to keep it, within that $20. I might get dinged $15 because it's going to cost me 35. But I already have that calculated in my head and calculated in my overall situation. And I'm assuming everybody does it that way,
Yeah.
but it's the only way you keep be competitive. I do it mostly because I try to watch and see what the Americans like, kind of get an idea. Okay, that would cost me so much to ship. What are they shipping it for? You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I should say that in a better way. So as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I wish I would have said, I don't like the idea of saying, oh, I'm going to lose a few dollars on shipping. I think a better way to think of it is you should take that extra shipping cost and put it into your cost of goods. So when you buy it, you think, okay,
right,
so I got to add an extra $3 or $4, or maybe even another $10 if it still makes sense. I'm gonna write that off into my cost of goods so that it makes sense for me still, right? Because that
yeah,
just sounds better than saying you're losing money, because you're not losing money. You are giving up a little bit of profit that you might make in the item, but if it's worth it, I think it's worth, it's just like paying up for the item a little bit more.
yeah, yeah. That's a great way to look at it for sure. And it lets you sleep better at night. So
Right. Nobody likes to hear I lost money on shipping, because no, you didn't. You spent a little extra on shipping. You didn't lose money. You
yeah,
just had to pay a little extra. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a good way. It's a good way to put it for sure. Um, okay, so I stopped in the middle here. Most of the items I look for aren't being sold by very many people within Canada. So, yeah, so Don deals, according to Carl, and I hope I'm not wrong here, Don. If I am, you can correct me, but I think probably 80 or 90% or most of what you sell is ephemera type stuff. So, I'm going to assume for the most part, shipping is going to be relatively inexpensive for you. But I don't know for sure. Does ephemera include books? Because books can get heavy. So anyway, I'll keep going here. So I'd be buying from people in the U.S. and people in the U.S. more than often than not will use eBay's international shipping,
Right.
which costs a buttload. Oh, to get it from the U.S. to Canada, is that where they're?
Well, I'm
That
not,
must be
that program's not available in Canada. It used to be at one point, but it's not. It's a good program though.
okay. plus the important duties, taxes, etc. If not for that, I would. So, from my understanding, duties and taxes, if the person sells or buys something for under $800 US, they don't get slapped with the duties and all that kind of stuff. Is that correct?
I believe within North America. I'm not past North America. I'm not really sure. But the
Okay.
good thing about that, the eBay International Shipping Program, if you shipped um, a pair of shoes to Paris, France,
Yeah.
so you actually don't ship it there. You ship it to a location in the US,
Right.
so to another state, and they reship it from there. But once it gets to the location, the eBay location where they're going to ship it, transaction's complete. If the person's not happy with it, it doesn't matter. They don't get to open a case or do anything. They can deal with eBay, and eBay will justify it however they want. But as soon as you get it to the eBay center, that's the end of the transaction.
So
And
that's actually pretty good then.
it's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
we used to have that in Canada when I first got serious about messing around with eBay again. We still had it then, and so that must have been about 5 years ago at this point. And
Oh,
then it
okay.
just went away. I don't know what happened.
Okay. So I'm 3 years in, so I would have just missed that then, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Plus the imported duties tax. If not for that, I would probably shop on eBay a lot more often. I have been trying to purchase from Amazon less frequently for reasons I won't get into here. I do have a problem with Amazon because the last couple of things I bought were packaged absolutely poorly, right? So I was not impressed, and the actual one thing was damaged. I tried to deal with it, but I ended up having to buy a second one. And when it came, at least it wasn't damaged, but the package was all beat up. It looked like shit, you know.
Yeah.
And that's both of those were Amazon. But I do like Amazon for their speed. I buy a lot of like magazine, uh, like the plastic sleeves to put magazines and stuff in. I'll buy a lot of that kind of stuff from them. Um, yeah, but I do like the speed in which it gets there, as long as it's not broken.
Exactly.
I've been trying to purchase from Amazon less frequently. Okay. In disposable income, it's difficult to shop a place other than Amazon, Walmart, and Timus of the world.
Oh, Timu.
Timu.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
It's you know what Wish is? Sort of a Chinese or junk site
Oh,
where
okay.
it's like that. Yeah,
Okay.
same idea.
Okay. Yeah, Walmart. I mean, you can see how Walmart has destroyed a lot of small town little businesses.
Hmm.
Like the ones downtown really don't last that long, and I think it's for that reason. Everybody just goes to the big box stores now, right? So
Did,
Canadian Tires, WalMarts, you get everything there one shot. Um, and they're cheap, right? They're
did you know?
relatively expensive.
Did you know they're actively trying to compete with Amazon now? Like you can resell on Walmart's website.
I haven't looked much into that, but I have heard about that.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. That's a lot of money to go up against Amazon. It's probably threatening to them for sure.
It would be threatening to them, but on the other hand, if they don't do something, then Amazon's kind of taken stuff from them. So they're kind of a threat to each other, right?
Yeah,
So, um, like I don't know, maybe they'll end up merging at one point,
maybe. I
right?
mean, I'm a better scenario for us potentially is a merger between somebody like eBay and Walmart, and they just try to take Amazon out. I mean, that's just me saying that, and I haven't read that or anything like that. I'm just thinking, I don't
Yeah,
really think they're very friendly. Like Walmart, I should say, it doesn't seem very friendly. They're kind of cutthroat.
yeah. I don't, and I don't even know. My thoughts would be that Amazon would be able to buy out Walmart, but I doubt Walmart could buy out Amazon. I don't know if Walmart would have the money to buy eBay either. I don't
I don't
know.
know.
Like Elon Musk might be able to, and then we could go under Tesla.
There you go.
That one was for Carl, who drives the Tesla. Um, I have been trying to purchase from Amazon. Okay, Carl, you are so right about Amazon search being a huge factor too. I don't think about that being one of the differences, but it totally is. My store banner is just an image I got from either Pixabay or Pixels. I don't even know what either one is. Do you have any idea?
Must be a clip art website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Image with Creative Commons licensing. My logo, I hired someone to design. Sadly, does not include sweaty balls. Carl, I don't think Carl knew what sweaty balls was.
Oh no, that's funny.
No, I had to send him a link. Sweaty balls. That's funny. So here's two more comments from Doing It Wrong. Carl, setting up your eBay store as presentable isn't as tedious as it may seem. I don't know if I even matters. What you got like Thriftonfire? Like, what do you put for your eBay store?
All of my stores are either 654 or 670 liquidation, I think. Yeah, no, sorry. No, it isn't. It's 65. It's the store. And then it's either 654 or 670, depending on what site.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's it. I have a logo made for it. I do have a banner for it, but it's all just stuff that I created myself.
Yeah, I do have a banner. Just says Scott sells stuff, and then where your little circle image is, I have a beaver.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So I actually don't mind the banner. It was very simple to make, and you know, it took me a couple hours to get it all made up and posted there, but I'm okay with it, right? So
yeah.
like I agree, it might not matter as much as we think. I don't know if it matters, but it doesn't take much. Get Chat GPT, which is Carl's favorite go-to make you some pretty pictures. Fill in some category stuff. The most make in Doing It Wrong, by the way, is Computer Guy 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So when he asks women to get under the sheets, he goes, spreadsheets. That was a joke he made up the other time. Like, are you serious? But at the most, make a minute-long video talking about your store. Even if it makes you like 2 sales, you've made more money doing it. And the store name should be Nice Beaver. Beaver Time is also available. Wow.
Oh, does eBay now? So maybe that's news to me. Do they allow you to upload videos now to your store?
So I don't know if we can do that here in Canada. I looked at something and I didn't really quite understand it because I just didn't have the time to get into it. Because I did mention that last week, and so I'll have to. What is he saying at the most? Make a minute-long video talking about, because I think there's something where you can share your YouTube or your social media or something.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can put a video up, but you can share some type of social media. So that's one of the reasons I'm thinking about maybe moving my live show to a different channel and kind of making my my Scott Sells Stuff YouTube channel into like a infomercial style type thing.
Okay.
So I posted my first video today just to kind of get an idea of how I want it to look, and it's going to probably change all the time. But it's kind of like, here's items I just listed on eBay today. You know what I mean? So I do 3 or 4 of those a week, and then I'm going to do another one once a week. I'm going to do an episode like, here's what I'm taking to the booth. Here's my antique booth. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm advertising my channel at the antique booth already, so might as well let people know what I'm taking there. And then, you know, so I'm kind of going on something like that. But I have to go back and check it out. Maybe that's a topic for another time, but there is something where you can upload social media, and it can be Instagram, it can be other things. It's not just YouTube. I think they had Facebook, Instagram, maybe TikTok or something else, but I don't want to talk about it too much because I didn't really dive into it. Talking about your store, even if it makes you 2 sales, you've made more money doing it for sure. And your store name should be Nice Beaver. Wow, that's awesome. Doing it wrong again here. IMO. What's that mean?
IMO.
Yeah, there's definitely some growth. I don't know. I'm with these little acronyms. I'm not the greatest. IMO. There's definitely some growth eBay can do social marketing. The only bit they have is the ability to post what you list to your Twitter. Oh, okay, he's got it there. Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram accounts. I think there was a YouTube ability too, but I need to look more into that. But yeah, IMO.
It's not like LMAO or like, no, I don't know. I'm not sure what that is.
No. Okay. So anyway, so we hit all the. Thank you so much, everyone. We for the comments. We have no comments on Spotify this week, which is fine. We had a couple from Tina Mac last week. She lives out by Carl, and she'll listen to the show while she's listening. So
Nice.
So all right. So we are rambling on like Carl and I do. We've got a lot into the show here. So we'll get on to
arguing.
topic.
We're good.
We're good. We'll get on to today's topic, and it's about antique booth. Jamie, how's your antique experience? Even if we're repeating stuff we talked about earlier, that's fine. Just like, how scary was it to get involved in it, and where's it gone since, and what is your expectation and the result? Like, are they kind of right in line? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So I was actually reflecting on this the other day a little bit because I was thinking about exactly this. What do I actually expect out of my antique booth? So I kind of went back when I started and thought, well, why did I start it? Well, I started it because I got kicked off of Etsy for selling brand new with tags jerseys, and I got a little bit of a warning, but I got blindsided. So all of a sudden, Etsy's gone. For me, Etsy was like $500 to $800 a month. That's about how much money I was making on Etsy, and it really varied from month to month. There were months that I made much, much more than that, and there were months that I made much less than that. But I would just say that's a pretty good number to give you an idea of what it was worth to me. So when I decided what am I going to do next, I want to fill the void that was Etsy. I thought about an antique booth. Well, I had actively been trying to even get into one for over a year. Actually, I think I might have been closer to 2 years, and the one that I actually still would like to be in. And then I walked into the one that I'm currently in today and kind of talked to the guy, and the numbers made sense. And then I actually we had a phone conversation with you, and you kind of told me what you thought about the antique booths and that particular store. Decided to jump in, try it out. What I would say for the most part, I feel like a lot of what I bring there is a combination of flea market type items and vintage or antique stuff that I sell online. So what's typically what I would find in an antique booth, I'm still learning all those things because those aren't things that I even knew about or understood. But it's been good though. Every month I've been making a little bit extra money. It's been moving in the right direction. I really hope to take it to January. Like I've already just committed to myself till January because it's just a month to month there. But I really can't see in January making any decisions where I'm just going to like stop doing it. So I think it's a really positive thing for me so far.
Yeah, I found that. So this will be my third location. 1, 2, 3. This is my fourth location.
Okay.
And I dabbled in this kind of in between my first two, and when I say it's not like I was just in one all those times. Sometimes I had booths in two different stores, two different locations. But I just kind of found this one works for me. It's both on how close it is to the house, to where we live, and just the pure volume of traffic and vendors, the style, the theme, like it fits me. And I'm really happy with the ownership of the store, which I think is important. And they're willing to work with you, and I'm willing to work with them. Like, they've asked me to do things, but they've never had a problem with anything I've requested or wanted to do. Not that I'm high maintenance, you know what I mean. But there's always things that come up and different things. So, anyways, it just kind of stumbled upon it, and it just grew. It was almost like a natural fit. And once that flow happens, I think it's nicer. If you're always fighting things, it's tough, right? So
yeah.
But this is just like a natural fit based on a lot of things. The number one fact is I'm doing it full time now, so I have lots of time to devote to whatever needs to be done. And I shouldn't say lots of time, but I have time. Where when you're working full time, like it's hard. Like you got a couple hours in the weekend, maybe, or one day a week at the most. So um, so I don't know where I'm going with this, but for the most part, I think that's how I began, is just kind of learning and feeling the vibe out and getting a place where I really feel comfortable and happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it started out as a hobby. Like I just enjoyed picking, and I needed a outlet to sell this stuff. Um, I Before I started on eBay, I started on Etsy, just because eBay had the 10 item rule, right? Where you start out with 10 items. I'm
Exactly.
like, well, I'll just go to Etsy. There's no rule. You know what I mean? And I was doing okay on Etsy. It seemed fine, but again, it was through the pandemic, so there was lots of sales. It was a different market then.
Yep.
But I'll be honest with you, eBay right now seems to be number one,
Oh yeah.
and the booth is a close second, but it's also a distant second because it's a completely different animal. You know what I mean? So I enjoy it. I make money at it, but I don't think. Well, I know that I couldn't just do the booth and live full time doing the booth. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I think you could do eBay and do a full time income living just doing eBay. What is, okay, so this interview is for you. I'm just going to ramble on here, but I'm going to break at the edge of the cornfield, as Randy would say, and I'm not going to go through it. I'm going to come back to you, Jamie. Um, like, what's your overall thought, like experience, like not so much like how you get into it and stuff, but just your experience. Like, would you give people advice? Would you give yourself different advice starting up?
Maybe. I thought I knew better because I thought what sells online probably would sell here, and I just thought no brainer. I'm also always picking up jerseys and stuff like that. I've done started to do good with jerseys, but when I started, I filled I had 2 racks full of jerseys and some vintage t-shirts and those sort of things, and they just sort of sat there. And I was like, really? Like, even when I walked around the store, there's a couple other guys who have jerseys and stuff like that, and I was priced better. I thought I had better items. I even went out of my way to pick up a whole bunch of um, youth jerseys that were brand new because I thought, oh, people for sure would buy these for their kids just based off of, just what I thought. And the funny thing is, when I decided to remove some of those jerseys and bring them home and put them back online, they all sold really quick online. So I'm like, okay, so like you can't, it's not one to one, right?
Right.
You really have to learn who's coming into that building, what are they buying, and you need to cater to them. So basically had to get my head out of my own butt, right? Like, because I just thought that I knew what was going to sell, but I didn't, because it might sell online, but we're talking about millions of buyers. We're not talking about a small town. So that was one thing for sure that I wish I would have been just took a walk through and just seen what I thought was interesting around there, and kind of maybe did my own thing still, but maybe added some of that flair in there too. I think that would have made more sense.
Yeah, and you know what, dude? I made the same mistake. I remember going to and I was I'm in the store that I'm in now, but I was well into the antique stuff. But I had a great deal on a bunch of jerseys. I came in there, I bought a ton of jerseys. Probably bought about 40 or so. Like I bought a lot. And so they're about $10 a piece. So I'm looking at like $400 I invested, and I put them in the booth, and it was just crickets. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So, but that doesn't mean, and I've said this to you before, but that doesn't mean that because it was crickets in my store, it's going to be crickets in your store. It could be a whole different thing, right?
Right.
So I don't want to influence anybody in any one way of what's good or bad, because each store is different. Dude, I've said this before too, but I've even had things that sit forever on the top floor. You put them on the bottom floor and they're gone. Like,
Yeah.
just going one level difference is it's insane. It's crazy. Um, doesn't make any sense. But there definitely is your clientele. You have to learn who it is. The thing about the antique booths too, there's a lot of old school guys that might not sell on eBay, And they don't just go to Delhi Antique Market. They go to Waterford. They go to Port Rowan. They go to Delhi. They go to Brantford. Sometimes they do 1 or 2 trips a week and they just go around. And these are hardcore collectors, right? These are the guys you want to sell to because their money's not really a super issue. Like you can't ask $1 million for $100 toy, but they're
Yeah.
going to pay $100 for that $100 toy. You know what I mean? So, um, but they're hardcore collectors. That's what they do. And they will go around and they will look, just that's their thing. You know what I mean? That's not my thing, so I can't say I understand it, but I know there's people out there that do it. You know what I mean? So you just have to learn who's coming to your store, what they want, and then you look for it, right?
Yeah,
So
that's exactly. I've been trying to repeat the same patterns of when I look through my sales, and that's definitely helped me to get multiple sales because, especially in a small town, like we just said, those people are the people who are coming back. You know, somebody who comes in from out of town might buy that really odd or rare thing that you have in there because they don't probably know they won't see it again. Somebody who's local probably will come back and see if it's there next week and, until it's not there.
yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of things too is like go on to auction houses that are high end auction houses. One of the most incredible learning experiences I've had. It was almost like an epiphany because you always think, okay, you got to low ball everything. Like you got to really just put in a super low price or things aren't going to sell. Well, that's not true at all. Um, in many cases, it can be true, but I think if you go on to like a Miller auctions, if you go onto their website, they're local here. They're just up by Ingersoll. I think they're north of there. But they pick all across. They really go across Canada as far as where they get their stuff. But they do a lot of Quebec. They do a lot of out east stuff that comes this way. But they get high end prices. And if you just look at their folk art or their Petrolia or their old bottles or like it's insane the kind of stuff that you see there, and you're like, really? Like, you know what I mean? Now you got to be careful because you don't want to pay $500 for something you think is 20 grand and it ends up to be worth like $50 because some things can fool you, especially like wood carved ducks and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things that can fool you, and a lot of times things are about the artist name behind it, right? So you have to learn that kind of stuff, especially with the folk art or the wood carvings and stuff. But there's a lot of other things out there too, like Petrolia or old pop bottles. Like just if you go onto their website and you just kind of go through what kind of prices they got, it's insane what you can get for some things, and you'll come across something every now and then that you probably would have overlooked, or you would have thought, wow, they want $200 for that sign, forget it, but it's worth $1,000. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like you'll see that kind of stuff. So
But that's a good thing too, even if you're just walking through. I know we're talking about the auction, but if you're just walking through other antique
yep.
malls, um, there's so many things I've looked at, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe it's worth that much money. I've probably walked by 10 of these, and I've never even once considered looking at it. You know,
Yeah.
it's a good place to learn. I think you actually even told me that, and I did that a little bit, but I should have did it more than I did
Yeah.
starting for sure.
It's that is 95% accurate. But I also want to go on to my little bit of paranoid side. Sometimes these vendors don't really know, or they're pricing things in such a way that maybe 20 years ago you get that price.
Oh yeah, I would
So
look it up still on eBay just to make sure. But
yeah, so kind of like I wouldn't want you like I just wouldn't want you to go out and spend $50 on something that's priced at 200, but it's selling for $25 now on eBay. You know what I mean? So that's but because when you start, and this is I started just paying dirt cheap for most stuff, right? For everything, and I still do. It's my personal rule, but every now and then I'll see something very interesting or unique, and $30 isn't because it's $125 or $150 item. 30-40 dollars, it's worth it because those things will move fast, like a beaver jar or something like that, right? So um So, anyways, it's such a learning curve, and it's a lot of fun, and I like to hear people getting into it and actually doing successful because I'm not saying it's a dying thing. I don't think that at all. I think there's always a list there of people that want to be in the antique booth, but I think there's also a lot of people who come from the online only and they don't really grasp the antique concept, the antique booth concept. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're trying to push a lot of modern stuff. You know what I mean? Like 2000, 1990s. Um, and they're overlooking the good 1930s, 1800s. You know what I mean? That kind of
Yep.
stuff.
I'm guilty of exactly what you're talking about because well, I definitely have a lot more Y2K and 90s stuff and pop culture. And that's why I think I even said at the beginning that I feel like my booth is probably a little bit flea market, a little bit antique booth.
Yeah.
Um, but that's the stuff, those are the things I have to learn. I don't know anything about stuff from the 30s, the 40s, the 1800s. I mean, I can look at something, before we started this, you showed me a piece of something, a piece of a pocket watch, right?
Yeah.
That was way, 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 way older than I thought. I didn't think for a second that was, what'd you say it was from the 1800s potentially?
It's from the 1800s. Yeah. And
Yeah, I
it's
wouldn't.
sterling.
It.
And yeah, dude, I overlooked it. I bought the box of stuff because of something else that was in this box for $2. This was a complete surprise. But I won't make that mistake again because if I see something like this, I'm going to be looking at it right away.
Oh,
Right.
for sure. Yeah. But I mean, those are all things you learn, right?
Yeah.
I've only been interested. If I went to yard sales last year, I wouldn't even took a second look at a pop bottle or an antique anything because I'm like, well, I don't want that because that's not really what I'm doing unless it was like maybe an antique radio or something I could sell online easily, right? There's
Yeah.
following behind. But now it piques my interest when I'm in a yard sale because I'm like, oh, I should see if there's value in these, or like, depending on how much they want for them, it's just a whole new game because it's not the same as picking up stuff for online.
Yeah. And it's the pop bottle thing is kind of interesting too because sometimes it has to do with where it was bottled. Like I earlier this morning, Steph had to go to a funeral, so she had to work today. So I did an hour of her job. I went to the antique store for an hour until she was able to come back from the funeral. So during that time, one of the things they asked me to go do is go to someone's booth and grab a bottle because it had sold on our on Waterford Antique Market's website, right? So it's going to be shipped out. Well, it's a $95 bottle, pop bottle, but there was a lot to it. It was where it was bottled. It was also an older one. It had a really nice screening on the front, like it wasn't all scratched up or anything. Um, and it's just like I remember, so I sold one for I don't know, it was like around 100 or 150, and it was bottled in Lindsay, Ontario, and it had a really nice old logo. And I got 100 or $150 for it, and the guy wanted it because he bought a $10,000 clock. Like this was old. This was like 1930s or 40s. Um, and he bought a $10,000 pop like clock with this pop advertisement from the same company. So
Okay.
he wanted the bottle to display with this clock. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
and it sold very quickly online. It was in the booth for months, and I just took it home, put it online, and boom, it sold. And he was so happy because the label was so clean that because most paper labels they get chewed up, torn off, they get wet, and they rot off. But this one was very clean and mint, and he was very happy with that. And it was a bottling company out in Lindsay, Ontario. You know what I mean? So that's out by Peterborough area. So
Well, that you saying that just made me think of something else. One of the other things that I wasn't good at when I started, I haven't been doing this for very long either, keep in mind, but patience when I put something there. Because if I put something good online, I expect it to sell quickly. Or if I put something in there, something online that's got medium sell through rate, I expect it to sit there. I think I expected stuff to fly off the shelf in the booth, and that's not the case. I didn't have the patience,
yeah,
and it made me go. It made me rethink everything so fast. And if I would have just let my emotions take over, I would have went in there week 2 pulled everything out and started over again. And I thought I would just keep doing that until it took.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of patience, which
Yeah.
is hard because, like I said, online, you don't have to have, with a good item, you don't have to be patient. Somebody's going to buy it pretty quick.
And that's one of the things. I don't know if I've ever said this to you. I used to say this a lot at the beginning when I was doing my things. That's why I do a lot of pop bottles, DVDs, hats, things like that. I have no real interest in there, and those are things that chip away at the rent. So that when I sell something big that's meaningful to me, I'm not getting, like, in my mind, I'm not getting hit so hard, like, because all those hats and DVDs, they just kind of chip away, and they just, so let's just say you're paying $200. I don't know what you're paying exactly, but let's just say you're paying $200 uh, a month. Well, that really hurts if you're selling an item for $200 and you got, who cares? You could have $10 into it, but that just, plus you got to pay a percentage on top of that. So you're still in the loss if you look at that one item. But if you look at, I don't care about these DVDs. I paid $10 for 1,000 of them. You know what I mean? Or hats or whatever. Those little sales, and you can just put them in a tote, slide them under. People that want those will dig anyways, especially the horror movies. Those guys are nuts. But you sell 10 of them a month. You're going to sell more than that. At least I do. But let's just say you sell 10 a month. There's $40 off your rent. So now
Yeah.
you're only paying $160. You know what I mean? So, and then you sell a couple of hats, and all of a sudden your rent's paid for. You've sold 3 or 4 nice items. Because depending on what size of booth you have, you know what I mean? So obviously the more floor space, the more items you're going to sell for the most part. I'm depending on what you're putting in there, but for the most part, um, it's the same theory as the more you list on eBay, the more sales you're going to have because there's just numbers, right? So
Yep.
anyway, kind of digressing there a little bit, but there's things in there that I call just things that just chip away at the rent. I really don't care about them too much. I've got nothing in them. One hat sells, usually pays. I can buy 50 hats for $10. You know what I mean? Half the time. And I put one hat in there at $10 and it pays for the whole thing. Now everything is just chipping away at the rent.
Yeah.
Bottle openers. You can, for $10, you can buy thousands. Like you can buy a whole box of them. They're not all going to sell, but you don't care because they're just taking up a small little basket. Keychains. I'll do that with keychains, the older ones. Like I want old stuff, right? So, just little things that just sit in a basket. They don't really cost anything. 1 or 2 pays for the items, and everything else is free. And then the bigger items really is where I'm making my money. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I have the same logic for sure. My chip away items are DVDs, hats, and then my wife and I collect Disney pins, but we'll buy these huge lots online. So we'll get like 300 or 400 at a time, and we'll get the ones that we want. And I've sold them on Marketplace and online for a while, but I just throw them in there in these little bags. And those things sell all the time for like $5. I'll look at my thing and they'll be like, oh, somebody bought like 8 of them.
yeah.
Right. And there's
Nice.
and I don't have any money into them or any money. I've already got what I wanted out of them. These are just the leftovers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I do the same thing with toys. Like, say there's a vintage toy pack, I'll buy the whole box for $20. Then I'll cherry pick what I want to sell online. Hopefully, there's something in there for $100 or more, or $50 or more. Cherry pick it, try to figure out the accessories and all that, and then I'll just bag up 3 or 4 or 5 of the generic items, and I'll put $5 on it. Um, what I'll kind of digress a little bit here. So what I do is I buy little cardboard folding cards, and I'll staple it so that they can't open the bags, because you go in there and then all the toys are open because they cherry pick the ones they want. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I'll staple that shut so they can't do that. But for $5, they're in there with your kids or something like that. That kind of stuff chips away, goes into a little box. It's slid under a counter where kids are going to see it more than anyone. But you're still filling that void of that spot, but it's insignificant stuff that really becomes significant once it sells. You know what I mean? It's one of those items that chip away. And then you've been able to cherry pick everything else. If things stay there too long, you can just take them to auction. You know what I mean? Like hats. If it's been there for a year, it's like, okay, I'm going to clear out these hats, bring in some fresh inventory, take those to auction. take the beer bottle openers to auction, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
there's lots of avenues there.
Do you find there's some value? So today I went in this morning and just I added some new items, and then I actually just shuffled around some of the stuff I had in there. I just find maybe if somebody walks in and sees
Yep.
something in a different place, it might be interesting to them, right? Because it's really easy to look past stuff, especially even if you're in there weekly. If something's in a new place, it might catch your attention.
There's kind of like it's kind of like a funny saying, but it really rings true in a lot of ways. Like as soon as you touch an item, it sells. It's kind of that thing. So in theory, what you're touching it, but you're actually moving it around, right? Like you put it from this side to that side, one shelf higher, you bring it a couple shelves lower. So you are switching it around. The booth looks different. I always keep my booth nice and full and packed. I find that helps, but it's the touch of thing. And this is going to sound very kind of spiritual or nutty, whatever way you want to look at it, right? But you ever go into like you go into a house that's no one's living in it. Maybe the person's passed away. You're invited in because they want to sell you some stuff that, grandma had or whatever the situation is. You go into the house and it's spooky. There's no vibe. It's just empty and shallow, and you just walk in there and there's nothing. It just seems empty. But if you vision like a Christmas, like you got the fireplace, you can just say, like, there was a time when this had energy running through this house. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, because it's got maybe the shag carpet and the fireplace, and it's got an 80s stereo or something in the corner. And I'm like, there was energy here at one point, and right now it's empty. So I'm kind of digressing again, but I think the same could hold true in that, and this is going to be nutty or spiritual, however you want to look at it. But if you touch something, sometimes maybe some energy, aura, whatever, revives that item just long enough that somebody else sees it and grabs it. Does that make sense, or is that kind of ridiculous?
I think it makes a lot of sense, but I
And
also
I don't mess around with Ouija boards. So, anyways, we'll keep going.
yeah, I also wanted to say my mother told me if you touch it too much, you might go blind.
Wow.
But yeah, I do think I don't know. I've had good luck with just moving stuff around. That was basically the point anyway.
Yeah. When you can still see.
And I can still see. So
okay, so you listen to it. So anyways, okay, now we just went off into the cornfield, Randy. That was funny. Yeah, so I don't know. I just find homes like that, so maybe items have that, and I do believe that touching it really does just make a difference. And we move things around all the time. And that's one of the things that they'll tell new like our store, Anna will tell people that are struggling a little bit with sales or something like that. She'll say, just move the stuff around. You know what I mean? Give it a different look, bring some new stuff in, and it makes your whole booth look different. It really does. So, yeah, good point. We're running a little long in the tooth here. Not as long as Carl and I usually do, but that's because we get in arguments. But anything you want to like close off with, or any like things that we didn't touch upon?
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I guess I would say is if you have the opportunity to get in a booth and if it's not gonna financially set you back, I think it's a positive experience. It's fun for sure. You don't have to worry about people returning stuff like you do online. And it can be a little social, right? Like I definitely get to talk to some different people when I go in there. Even sometimes when I'm stocking my booth, people might be in looking at stuff. You can actually talk to somebody, ask them what they're looking for. It's good. I think it's a really good way to get in, a different way to get into reselling that feels a little bit more personable than, I would say if you were taking a step away from like Facebook Marketplace or something and looking for the next thing, that would be a really good place to go because you're going to get a different audience for sure.
And I agree. And I'm going to just add a little bit to it because you made me think of something that sometimes we only look at things in a financial in a financial way. So we're looking at how much am I gaining financially. But I think with the antique booth, the one thing that stood out is social. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the social part of it is honestly the old guys, the old timers, women too. When I say guys, I meant both women too. There's a lot of good women pickers out there that have done this for years. Um, they're they're willing to talk about what they've learned and their experiences over the years. And I personally can't put a value on that. So I find learning to see what they're picking, what they're pricing, what they're selling, where they're sourcing, and just their overall experience and knowledge. Like I love listening to those guys. Sometimes I think I talk too much. Like I gotta tell myself, okay, he's trying to fill his booth. I better. I feel like I'm 10 years old and I'm like there asking silly questions. You know what I mean? So I kind of like have to pull back and I just like, okay, have a good day. We'll talk to you later. You know what I mean? But honestly, I just enjoy listening to their stories and getting their vibe. And sometimes I even go as much as like, listen, I got this, and I don't know am I pricing it too ridiculously high or not high enough, or what do you think? So um, there's just so much knowledge and sharing of that knowledge that can't really put a price on that. You know what I mean? But if you're not a vendor, they're not going to share it the same way as if you are a vendor. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
uh, I've even had situations many times where people have invited me to picks or recommended me to pick someone else because, okay, it's not my thing, Scott, or I've already picked this house, but you'll probably find something there. Um, and those guys will send me there. And I mean, that's priceless. You know what I mean? A lot of people go and do those weekend things every now and then, like little events where you're selling stuff. They don't go there to sell stuff. They go there first to buy and make contacts. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of other reasons they go there. So because if you're a vendor there, you get your foot in the door. You've got an hour before the doors open usually where you can go around and pick other people's stuff and you'll find deals or things. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same idea. Like you get into that and all of a sudden you're part of that group. There's a lot of benefits there, right? So
Yeah, I agree for sure. And like most things, like I'm personally a reasonably not very social person. I'm an introvert for sure. Um, but it is good. It's healthy to get out there and talk to people and have communicate. Because if I could, I'd probably just stay in my house and not do anything. But I know that's not healthy. Like it's good to get out and talk to people and learn that way. You can learn a lot of things online, but there's just that human contact, or like it's very valuable to have that, right?
yeah, it's really valuable. And I think they're probably in the same boat. So I always find that I don't mind talking to people. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy conversation, but it's with a certain type of people. You know what I mean? It can't just be with anybody. It has to be, somebody I can relate to. Like I don't want to sit there and talk about pulling cherries pits out of cherries. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't want to talk that topic. You know what I mean? So I can't talk to a person that wants to talk that topic. But these people relate to what I'm relating to, and this has become. It's really weird. I'm going to go on another tangent here, but this really has taken over my life. Like this is. I don't want to do anything else. You know what I mean? Like this is. I could do this 24/7, and it's just it's one of those weird things. Like you always see, I don't know if this is even something that people are going to call me crazy on or not, but you see people who devote their entire life into film or hockey or something. Like I feel like that calling has come to me in the form of digging. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
know it's not the same kind of thing, but to me it is. To me, it's like this is my thing. This is. I don't want to play hockey. I don't want to make film. I don't want to, you know, take pits from cherries. I just want to dig. I just want to dig, and selling is part of it, but I just want to find all that stuff. So it's just taken over.
No, I feel similar, and I think I I'm happy for you because that's what everybody's looking for in life. You're looking for that one thing that's fulfilling, that you enjoy, and you're lucky enough that it can also provide you an income, right? So it's a really great thing to find.
Yeah, but I wish I would have found it like 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, You know,
maybe, but then I mean, if you want to look at it the other way, you probably had lots of experiences that happened because of, maybe where you were, jobs, all sorts of things.
100%.
You'd miss out on all that too. I think you're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree as well. So, all right, are we going to end it there? I think.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a wrap.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much, Jamie, for coming in here and giving us some of your time. And we look forward to you coming back next time. Carl is playing hooky, being lazy. He might not even be on vacation. He's just like, I don't want to do it this week. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he's like, oh, Jamie will do it. I know that sucker will do it whenever he wants.
All right. So thanks for coming on. Next week we should have probably Carl in the house, I'm assuming. If not, Jamie's here. But thanks so much for coming on here. Thanks so much for putting comments in the chats, guys. I love the comments. Big part of our show. And that's going to do it till next time. We're here every Friday, and we're on Spotify and YouTube, audio only. And I'll leave a link. Jamie, what's your channels again?
Yep. So not Jamie, the lazy reseller, but Thriftonfire and A to Z Reseller podcast.
Okay, and I'm going to put those links. This is a pre-record, so it's not like I've forgotten already, like on the live show. But I will put those 2 links in my YouTube, in the YouTube channel, and in this show. So you'll be able to click on there and go right to Jamie's as well. So thanks, Jamie. We'll talk everyone next week. Have a good week, everyone.
All right, thanks.